All right, so coming to you live. No real prep work here. Uh, this is a super late review, so or early morning, depending on where you live. Um, yeah, here we go. So just got done seeing the pre-screening of Black Panther, and all right, sorry about that. So, just got done seeing the pre-screening of Black Panther, and yeah, I'm gonna do something I don't normally do on this channel. Um, I can't believe I'm doing this. Um, so, if you guys know my channel, you guys know that I've been very vocal. I've been on quite a few panels, and the one Marvel movie out of the old school Marvel releases, the old phases, I like to say, there are two movies that I'm not really particularly high on. Uh, the first one is Captain Marvel. Don't care for it. Not very many people I know that do. The second movie, and I was on an island about this apparently, but the second movie I don't really care for was Black Panther. I love Chadwick Boseman in the role. I like Michael B. Jordan. Thought he was a great villain, but in that movie, there's a lot of story elements of it that don't come together for me. So uh, I just don't. I rewatched it today to get ready to see the new Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Just to refresh myself. And even to this day, I'm still like, ugh, it's just not a movie for me. I'm not really hyped on it. Not a big fan. So, how do I feel about the sequel? The sequel that has so many things working against it. Uh, a movie that could have been disastrous in what I honestly feel the MCU Phase 4 has been just absolutely god awful. I haven't liked really honestly much of what has been released this phase. I don't know if Moon Knight falls in there. I liked Moon Knight, but I haven't liked much of Phase 4 to be honest with you whatsoever. I'm not a big fan. You can see my other reviews. Um, and I was not a fan of the first Black Panther. So I had a really low bar. I'm just like, if this is entertaining, then fine. And I like to pride myself on one thing in this channel. I don't like to say I don't like something just because there's all this hype and there's controversy. I like to think that I rate something on the content presented to me. And with that being said, uh, holy fucking shit. I'm just gonna come and say it. This movie is infinitely. Yeah, I know it's 5 in the morning. Got to get my thoughts out. People got to know before they go and see this tomorrow. This movie is legit. I think the critics are crazy. The movie is awesome. This is coming for now. Anybody who knows me knows I don't like the first movie. I just don't. The fucking rhinos. There's not a shot that's bad in this movie. Everything's framed well. The CGI is immaculate. And I can't get into spoilers because it's not released yet. So I'm not going to spoil any of this movie. I'm just going to give you some characterizations, the people who really stood out in the movie, um, a general idea of the movie, but I'm not going to spoil anything. And please, if you see this in the comments below, wait a little bit before you start saying spoilers. This is a non-spoiler review. I don't want spoilers in the comment. I will erase them. I will block you. So, with that being said, the general premise of this movie, which is non-spoiler, I'm going off the synopsis, but the king of Wakanda is dead. The king of Wakanda is dead. And there is there is a bit of political intrigue, which I really enjoyed. They actually uh, have a little bit of stuff that carried over from the first film, with them outing themselves, and they have to deal with that. First off, MVP goes to Angela Bassett. I've known Angela Bassett from numerous other films. She's a great actress. This movie really lets her act. She is by far one of the strongest performances I've seen from her in years. Uh, Great fucking acting. She is phenomenal in this. There's real stakes. Um, People fucking die. Lots of people die in this movie. It's very depressing. This to me felt like going and seeing a DC movie. It was very weird because there are jokes in this, but very few. And they take what's going on in this movie seriously. Um, Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic in this film. Uh, Everybody in this movie goes on their own journey, and a lot of the movie does deal with the loss of Chadwick Boseman. Now the marketing for this is uh, very much as if they're exploiting it, but the film gives a different vibe than what the trailers showed. First off, I just want to say the trailers for this movie are fucking terrible because a lot of the scenes that were sold in the or showed in the trailers, I believe were specifically picked because anything else shown would probably ruin what is going on in this film. I don't want to get into too much spoilers, but I think that the trailers took the worst, most out of context parts of the movie, and for good reason, because when you see past what the trailer showed, there's a different context for the whole entire scene. The underwater sequences are gorgeous. James Cameron, I certainly hope you bring your A game because holy fucking shit. I could not find a bad shot in this movie. The shot composition is great. The settings are extraordinary. Um, the acting across the board is pretty solid. I'd have to say most of the side characters get a lot of chance in this movie to step forward and kind of come into the forefront of the film. And they all are not just there just to be comic relief. In this movie, every character has a purpose. This movie was so different watching. And I really think back to my experience with Thor, which I absolutely loathed. uh, this movie takes itself very seriously, and I think it's to the benefit of what's going on from like beginning to end. This is a very serious movie. Now, that's not to say there's not a couple of jokes here and there, and it's interesting because when they actually do a joke, then the joke is actually funny because they don't put a joke in where it doesn't fit. There's a lot of time to let serious stuff happen to let you really feel what's going on. So the biggest question, I'm sure, which everybody's going to ask and everybody's gonna want to know when they see this is, what about Namor? I'm not gonna lie, Namor is a threat, a legitimate threat. Um, I'm still not down with the design. I'm a fan of the comic book, but the actor and especially the clips they took do not express as good as the actor portrays the character. And Once again, I can't give away spoilers, but pretty much from the beginning of the film, he establishes himself very much as an imposing force to the Wakandan people. Sorry, Mike went out. It's very interesting because Wakanda has something happen to it in the film that hasn't happened to it. And this movie deals a lot with nations and the people and people being demoralized and what that does to the power structure. Um, there's been talks about politics in it. They are in there, but the politics fit with what was established in the first film. Okay. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to come out and be like, oh, it's all too political, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. It's very true format to what currently happens. And I know because I was in the military. And so there's a lot of things that happen in it that make sense to the story and what's going on. So the political stuff that's in there actually fits the narrative of the story that they're telling. Um, and I'm kind of scattered brain in thinking about it because it's really hard to explain the things I absolutely tell you all. So this is a really tough review for me. It's hard to review. It's hard to review a movie when you can't give away certain details about the film. I definitely will be doing a spoiler discussion on this in the future. Hopefully, I can get a panel of people to get their thoughts. But for me, for someone who didn't really care for the first film, I feel like this movie 100% tops everything in the first film in every way. This movie does, for me, my problems with the first film was inconsistencies in the story and in particular how they handled Killmonger. And then, he was such an awesome character. And then, as they did with all of those phase movies, they just fucking kill the villain and he's done. Um, and I think this movie handles the story much better. I feel like that out of all of the directors given direct creative control, Ryan knew exactly what to do with the uh, clear path that he had for the film. He doesn't really give a shit about like making things all Marvel Flash or being kitty. This is a very mature movie. Like this is a this is the first time I walked into an MCU film and it felt like what it felt like in phases 1, 2, and 3. This is very serious movie. A lot of dark shit, a lot of shit that's crazy happens in this, and a lot of really heavy themes are in this movie. There is a lot of, and I heard a reviewer say that, oh, well, this might not be exactly one to bring the kids to. And I can honestly see why, because there is a lot of mature adult themes throughout this movie. Um, and this isn't really a spoiler because this is in the trailers, but a lot of this movie deals with grief and it focuses on how each individual handles the grief that they're feeling. And a big part of it ties into the main plot of the movie. And I thought that that part of it was done expertly. The end battle in this is 20 times better than the one in the first movie. Um, the scale of what's going on is much better. It feels like a movie that didn't try to do a big overarching, we have to have a super villain blowing up the world. It's a very small personal story. And that the I can't because my camera's messed up. Um it felt like a movie that was more focused on telling a personal story rather than telling a huge story that has worldwide ramifications. This has very, it does, but it doesn't. This is a very personalized story. And I really enjoyed that. And because of that, it doesn't get bogged down by having to tie into 50 other different things. And I think that it's a good lesson going forward for Marvel to focus again on these personal stories and then, have that connective piece rather than trying to make the story introduce 15 fucking new characters and we don't know nothing about them and we really don't care. Um, uh, there's somebody introduced. I don't know if it was a spoiler because I've stayed away from it, so I'm not going to say here. But the new person introduced fit the plot and was not overpowering to where it didn't feel like there was no point of having this character. This character has a very relevant point to the plot of the movie, but they don't take up too much of the screen time from the main cast. I can't say enough. Lupita Nyong'o, Shiri, who was my least favorite character in the first movie, was spectacular. I feel like she really got a chance to act in this movie. She really got a chance to show a wide range of emotion, and she does a spectacular job from beginning to end. There's a couple of scenes that are some real tearjerkers in this film, um, and really hit you hard. And the interesting thing about this movie is from the very beginning, it puts you in this place. And then and then when you finish, you're like, wow. And I think a lot of people are going to be in this spot where they don't know how they feel because this is not like the first Black Panther. It has a different energy. It's not even really like any of the other MCU movies because there is that sense of people having fun from time to time in certain scenes and a couple of quips here and there. But really, it is the best way for me to describe it is depressing. And I come from the DC universe, so I love a depressing story. The MCU has not had a serious story since God. I don't know when the last MCU movie was that told an actual serious tale, but this movie actually tells a seriously good, well written story. I honestly, truly believe this is one of the better stories to come out of this phase. And there is still things that connect it to what is going to happen in the future. And for that, I can't really give away spoilers for that portion of it. But it does set things up while still being its own film and still having its own self-contained story. There's still larger ramifications for everything that happens in this movie. And it really feels like shades of the old MCU again, of just great storytelling, setting up for the future, but not feeling like they're just getting ready for the next movie. This is very much its own story. It has a resolution, but there is things that happen that set up for the future. There is no end credit scene. There is a very important post credit scene you definitely want to stay for. Yeah, I don't know the difference between post credit and end credit, but there's a post credit scene, so stay for that. There's no end credit scene at the end of this movie, so you don't have to stay for longer than that. So I'm going to break this down like I would a normal review. So, what are my positives? My positives is just about everything. The acting is good. The cinematography is gorgeous. The soundtrack is okay. The music that's in it fits the moments that are going on, but I really don't like this soundtrack as much as the first Black Panther movie. I think the first Black Panther had a better soundtrack, but this soundtrack fits for what they're going for. Um, the acting across the board is great. The battle scenes are awesome. The story is pretty strong, and yeah, there's a couple of little unique things that happen that I think will have a lot of people like going, oh boy, wow, yeah, cool. Like there's a couple little Easter eggs here and there, so that was pretty cool seeing. My only negative is there's a point, and this has been said by multiple people, and I do agree with them. There is a point in about the second act where things slow down, and there's a lot of conversations, and I felt like that really took away from the pace of the film. Um, the the first act doesn't fuck around, and then it's kind of weird transition because the second act really slows down. It's important, but I felt like there was a lot of things they put in that if they cut it, and made it less than fucking almost 3 hours, it would have been perfect for me. There's about maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes or so you could cut from this film and it would have made it nice and tight. I think that given the circumstances they had, they did the very best they could. And I know tons of people have said that shit, but it really is true. The way they deal with the situation they were given was very well handled. I at no point felt like this movie really exploited the death of Chadwick Boseman. I felt as if this did do what they said it did, and it did feel like a send off for the character, and it felt respectful to everything that he brought to that character. And I'm surprised I'm saying that about a Disney product, but really, they really didn't feel like, at least Ryan Coogler, it didn't feel like he was trying to levy the death as some way to draw in a crowd. It felt like he built this story around how he was feeling, and you can tell in the acting, like everybody's giving it like 200%. There are literally points that got me choked up in this film, not gonna lie. And there was points with the small group I was watching it with where everyone was really silent and you could hear a pin drop. And that's why when the comedy came, it felt like a bit of a relief, because this movie is dark, really dark, and very heavy. And the comedy fits because it feels like it gives you a chance to breathe before the next thing happens. Um, Also, too, people died. Lots of people died. Holy shit. Tons of people died in this movie. Like, I was like, had to check to make sure I was watching an MCU movie. They don't cut away. Like, they legitly show some people dying in some pretty fucked up fashions in this movie. I was like, holy fuck. Like, I checked to make sure I wasn't in Black Adam. There was like lots of people died in this movie. Lots of people died. Uh, this like yeah, this felt like there's a scene in Captain America Winter Soldier where Robert Redford kills the maid, and everyone was shocked and like, oh my god, like, and it lets you know he's the bad guy. Yeah, people die in this movie. Like, holy shit. Like, there's some fucked up, there is, and it's not implied. Like, they don't fully show you everything, but you know enough to where you're like, yeah, they're dead. They are so dead. Uh, so that kind of felt good that like there wasn't that cutaway bullshit that they've been doing recently. And this movie had a lot of freedom to do what it wanted to do, and I think it benefits from that. So really, in my negatives, I say the runtime could have been cut down a little bit. It would have made the story feel a little bit um, more cohesive. And Namor was an interesting character. Um, and I'm not going to give anything away, but my issue, Namor is a threat. I will say that. Like, you do not feel at any time that Namor isn't a threat. Um, they actually take a villain seriously, so kudos. Thank you, MCU. Um, but I do have issues with his character. I can't get into it until I do spoilers, but uh it did leave me with a feeling of wanting to know more. So, uh, congratulations, they actually made a pretty compelling villain. Um, and and I'm trying to think if I've summed up every single person in there. Oh, M'Baku, like can't go without M'Baku MVP. Fucking 98% of the humor in this movie is due to him, and they don't make him a joke. But because the movie's so serious that when there's a joke, 98% of the time delivered by him, it's actually really fucking funny. The awesome part about the jokes in this movie, though, is he actually says shit that is funny because we're thinking it as the audience. So everything he says is so funny because you were sitting there thinking about it. And once again, when I do my spoilers, I'll be able to like really dive into the different things that are said and stuff like that, but I can't get into it now. But M'Baku and the dude who plays him, excellent job. Um, and Martin Freeman as the FBI agent, also. He's kind of comedy, but he has his own little journey in here too. Everybody gets their moment to shine, and at the end, and everything connects, and it makes for a very satisfying feeling about where everybody is by the end of the film. And I really enjoyed that. This was the first Marvel movie I've walked out of, God, since probably Spider-Man, where I felt like everything was wrapped up, but it left me interested in wanting to know, okay, where are they going to go from this movie? Because this movie is better than it has any right to be. I'm being 100% honest. I had no expectations for this film whatsoever. Even coming from phase 1, 2, and 3, Black Panther, I liked in Civil War. Didn't like him in his own movie. Liked him the rest of his appearances. Like I like him in Infinity War and stuff like that. I just didn't like his own movie. I thought it was very, very redundant. This movie feels like its own film, and it feels like it takes the mythology of the Black Panther and it takes everything that the first film did and it makes it better because of where they go with it. And I'm very, very curious to see exactly where they take uh, the character from there, because a lot of stuff is introduced and a lot of stuff happens in this movie that does raise very interesting questions. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm probably the most interested in seeing where Black Panther goes out of this whole entire phase 4. Shang-Chi and Black Panther have been the two MVPs for me. These are the two movies that I think really stand out above them. Shang-Chi's was still not as on the level as this movie is. This movie, the writing is way better than half of the shit that I've seen written, and it tells a complete story. And there's really, I mean, it's really hard to talk about a movie when you can't go into why it's such a compelling story. But I guess the question is, how do I feel? Does this movie live up to all of the hype that's buzzed around it, all of the buzz? This is interesting because the critics' score has been getting lower and they've been saying a lot of odd things. And I think what the critics have a problem with is the fact that despite what people say, the focus of the movie is not about politics. There's politics in it. There's a couple of scenes that are relevant to the story, but this story is very much a personal story and has nothing to do with world politics or agendas or anything like that. It just deals with the people and the situation and things that arise and how do they handle it and how do the people handle it. And I found that very interesting. It was very unique to see what it's like when the guardian that they've basically idolized is gone, and how does that affect the people around them. And I like drama and the drama of it all, so it might not click with everybody, but this movie really clicked for me. I really loved it. I really love this movie. I think it's uh really, really good. I think it is better than it has a right to be. And I think it's going to hit home with a lot of people, especially with the way that they handled the passing of Chadwick Boseman. I thought it was tasteful. There was nothing that was offensive, and it has that lingering effect, but it doesn't use it as a way to keep people invested. The story is very fascinating. The threats are very um, real, and they put people in danger, and you never feel like a character is safe or that they have plot armor. I was sitting back actually slightly concerned. It had a feeling that like nobody was safe. Anybody could be, uh, you know, killed off or whatever. And it's the first time in a Marvel film that I felt that. Like when I've gone into any of these Marvel films, and especially when you see the title of a character like Thor or Guardians of the Galaxy, well, they're not gonna fucking kill the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're not gonna kill Thor. It's his movie. They're not gonna like axe the main character. But in this, because of how it starts off and the fact that you don't know what's going to happen, it feels like anybody could die at any moment. And I think it really gives more gravity to this movie than any other Marvel movie, because all of these characters are side characters forced to be in the lead role and forced to defend their country without their protector. And I think that it was the only logical way to make this movie and make it still make sense. Yeah, kudos to this team. So I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but I was wrong. I was wrong. This was a really good movie. It's probably one of my favorite MCU movies. I probably think this is going to make my top 10 list for this year. It deserves it. It absolutely is spectacular. I am here almost 5 in the morning talking about this movie, and I felt like I had to get my thoughts out, and I'll probably go and see it again to like really dive into the different things, because the first time you see a movie you're just kind of walled by or stunned by what's going on. But yeah, I think I'm definitely going to see this movie again. It's worth it. I definitely highly think that you should go and see this movie. And I never thought in a million years on my channel that I would be saying this. So Ryan, hats off to you. I'm gonna give Black Panther: Wakanda Forever a 9 out of 10. This movie is just about perfect. My only issues lie in things I can't talk about, and it mainly has to do with pacing. I think the thing that really holds this back is that there is a lot of gaps where things slow down. And I think that I understand why they put it in the film, but I think they didn't have to have as much. They could have cut a few things here and there that would have made it a tighter movie and definitely feel not as long. But I was not bored once. I did not focus, or I didn't get unfocused on any conversation being talked about. This movie had a really high bar for me because I did not care for the first film. So I was not coming in here with any expectations for this film. I was grossly disappointed with Thor: Love and Thunder, and grossly disappointed with most of the majority of the MCU films that have come out this year. And this was really good. It was really great. I really enjoyed it. And I would say don't take critics on the internet, because this is going to be a mixed bag. There's going to be tons of people who are saying it sucks, and there's all these politics and all that. There's going to be people praising it and saying it's the greatest movie since sliced bread. Me personally, I just think it's a really well acted, well put together film. I think it pays respect to the memory of Chadwick Boseman. I think that a lot of people stepped up and really took that mantle, and they really put 100% effort. And I think in this movie you're going to see by the way people are performing that they give a shit about this movie. I can feel it. It goes beyond acting. I could feel people's pain, and you could feel the weight that they had while making this movie. And I do not envy anybody who was a good friend and had to act in this film. And I'm sure pulling out that emotion wasn't that hard. But yeah, it was a great movie. Go and see it. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. I'm probably gonna go see this again. And I would probably say that this is up there with my favorite films of this year. So, congratulations, MCU. You have a movie that's going to be on my top 10 list. This deserves it. Everybody, if you hear about the acting, everybody deserves the praise that they get. The acting is solid. The line delivery is good. There's no stupid lines that don't make sense. No jokes that really didn't land for me. It was a good movie. Great stuff. So, yeah, that's my 437 review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I had to go live and give you my initial thoughts. I'm sorry I can't tell you much more than what I'm giving you because I don't want to spoil this for anyone. You really need to go in like I did with not knowing what's going on, and I think you'll enjoy this movie. It's got a lot of heart. It's very emotional. At points, it's very sad, and at points, and especially when you get to what they're getting to with the story, it doesn't leave you feeling like shit at the end. Uh, it was a really good story. I really appreciate the story out of this the most from this film. And you know, much respect to the people who put this together. Shocked me, I know. Never thought I'd be praising a Black Panther movie. Never thought in a million years on my channel after the first film I would have such high praise. But yeah, I can't lie. Like, it's a really good movie. It's really good. 9 out of 10. Solid film. Definitely go out and see this. Go check it out. Go check it out. It'll be out today. And yeah, I highly recommend you go and see it. And I'll probably go and see this again for when I get ready to do a spoiler. But I'm going to wait like maybe a week or two. Probably the first week. This is going to have a ridiculous box office. We're already sold out for some screens. So, yeah, this movie is worth your time. It's worth your money. I think this is one of the best products the MCU has put out this year. And I think this was a good note to end this phase on because a lot of the other stuff has been crap. And I think that this really is a solid way. What's up, Lemon Pie? Just giving some of my final thoughts about Wakanda Forever. Just got done seeing it. 9 out of 10 for me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it's got my recommend. I think everybody should go see this movie. It was very good. I'd say it actually very good is an understatement. It was great. It was a great movie from beginning to end. As a DC fan, I can't believe I'm saying that.
No, you just keep saying the same thing over and over.
Okay, this is my review. All right. So, anyways, this is this is worth your time and your money. Go out there and purchase your ticket and go and watch it. I think you should support good Marvel products, and especially ones that aren't stupid. Hopefully, if enough people support this, they will move in a better direction because this reminded me a lot of what Marvel used to be and what it could be in the future. So, hey, Chillmonger. I can't believe it, but I'm giving my recommendation for Black Panther 2. Just saw it at midnight. I had a pre-screening. I gave it a 9 out of 10. It's a solid movie, and I was given my recommendation to go and see it when it premieres. There'll be premieres tonight, at least where I'm at. I'm probably going to go see it again. Yeah, this is the best MCU movie in Phase 4, and I am not a fan of the first film, Chillmonger, and here I am. I'm admitting that, yeah, Ryan Coogler has done it. There are very little flaws in this film. And nah, man, that's cold. I'm sorry. I'm a DC fan. You can't say that shit to DC fan. All right. Black Adam was my jam. But yeah, I gave this a 9 out of 10. I definitely think that it's one of the best MCU products, and I mean like products to come out in this phase. It's a solid ending, and I think it leaves the MCU off in a much better place, thankfully, than than the last couple of films. So it was definitely worth your money, and hopefully that gets people excited. And once again, don't take my comments. There's going to be 1,000 YouTubers who are going to come out and they're going to go, "Oh, this movie is shit. There's politics and it's woke and all the normal garbage that comes out." But I'll be perfectly honest with you, and I call it out on this channel. Chillmonger, you've been here a couple of times when I've had my streams. Um, there's nothing woke about this movie. Everything that's in it is crucial to the story. The politics are real world. It's very well done. Um, and I never thought I'd be saying that, but here we are. Fucking Black Panther, my favorite MCU movie of the phase. So weirder things have happened, I guess. But yeah, I don't even 100% agree with the critics. I think this movie is even better than what the critics are giving it. I think the critics are confused because it doesn't dive heavy into politics. It's just enough that pertains to countries and their struggles and things like that. It's very real world, um, very depressing. Lots of people die. I said that, but you weren't here for it, so you can go check out my replay. Lots of people die in this movie. Holy shit. This is the most kills I've seen in a Marvel property in quite some time. Like, there's a lot of people who die in this movie. Like, holy shit. And yeah, it was pretty interesting seeing them back in form. And it's a good setup if they're going in the R-rated direction because yeah, Marvel's got their gusto back. They got their confidence with this one. And yeah, if Kevin was saving this for the ending, then good job. You're a mad genius, Kevin. You still got it because everything is done right. And I can't wait. Hopefully, Chillmonger, if you get a chance, I'd love to have you and have a panel when you go and see this movie. I'd like to have a panel discussion. Maybe you, Comics Chat, PurpMinded. I'd like to get you all together and talk about this when we can do some spoilers. Well, no, I agree. I agree with you on that, but how they handle that is very tastefully done. That was my concern too. I thought it was going to be an exploitation of his death, but it's not that at all. And I think that the story goes in the only logical place that you can go with the loss of Chadwick Boseman. And I think that they handle it well. I think it was very tastefully and respectfully done. Um, and you'll see when you see the story, but it's very much a very personal story. And that's what makes this movie better than all of the other MCU movies. This movie is very much small scale. They brought it back to basics, and this is a personal tale. And it doesn't have this wider implication. There's not 150 people introduced into this thing. It's a very small story. There's one newish person introduced, and they keep it self contained to this small tale with the people involved in it. So, uh, I can't give anything away, Chillmonger. I really can't. I wish I could go into details, but unfortunately, I'm not allowed to do spoilers until the embargo lifts, and that's not until Thursday at noon. So I can't go into spoilers, but I will say they handle all of it very well. I wouldn't pay attention to leaks. I'd say go and see the movie. Put the leaks and everything out of your head. I'm aware of the leaks. I'm aware of how the trailers presented things and how everything is said is out of context to how they put it in the movie. And that's all I could really say. I think it's kind of shitty. People were leaking stuff because without having to see the movie, you don't have context to what the leaks are talking about. I think a lot of people will be surprised. And I definitely will say thank God Namor's a lot better than his design. So yeah, I know you, Chillmonger. You're pretty logical with your thinking, and I know you don't buy into to all that bullshit off of the rip, like Perp and the rest of the people I associate with. And I think you'll like what's being done now. It's not to say I gave this a 9 out of 10. There are some issues, and I will discuss them in spoilers. There's a couple of issues I have with this movie. What I can tell you is pacing. The middle of the movie does kind of slow down quite a bit, but uh, it does. The pacing of the movie does feel uneven, or they could have cut some things and made it tighter and made a tighter runtime. It's about 2 hours and 41 minutes, almost three. I'd really call it three with the previews and everything. And I felt like they didn't need it to be 3 hours. It could have been even an even 2 hours would have been fine. Um, but other than that, I didn't have really other issues I can talk about right now. There are a few story elements that I do take an issue with, but it's not enough to detract from the overall presentation of this movie. Um, it hooks you from the first 20 minutes, and there's good payoffs, and the story wraps up. It's a self-contained thing, and it doesn't feel like it's leading into 50 things, but there is quite a few things that do make you aware that there's a much larger thing at play, and I'm very excited. I'd say stay for the mid credit. There's no end credit, but you definitely want to see the mid credit scene. It's very important. Um, but yeah, uh, it definitely does set up the MCU's larger scope, and I'm hoping this is going to return them back to those more personal stories. Um, and I'm actually excited for a Black Panther 3. I never thought, like, out of all the movies of the MCU, I never thought I'd be sitting here going, yeah, I can't wait for Black Panther 3. That would be awesome. But, like I said, here we are. At least I have one thing to look forward to. And I'm not a hype guy. I will call something sucky if it sucks. I have probably said this to you and multiple other people. I don't like the first film. I think this is way better than the first film, honestly, as far as story goes. I think it's structured better, and I think it's not bogged down with having to tie everything up into the larger universe, which I think, in my opinion, hurts the first movie. And the fact that they had the thing of killing the villains off every single movie. So yeah, this does a lot of things different that I think really benefit the overall scope of the MCU. And it opens up the world quite a bit without flooding you with all this crap. It gives you just enough to be very curious about other things that are going on. Yeah. See, I can't. You make it hard because I can't spoil anything. Like I said, there's connections, but they're not the focus. The focus is on the movie itself. And that's my issue. I think you can still connect a movie without bogging the movie down by having to introduce a bunch of people who do nothing the whole entire film. And that's my issue with Multiverse of Madness. I don't even want to talk about Thor. I think it was atrocious. Shang-Chi was okay. Eternals was god awful. Um, but this one really hits a very good balance of the connectivity, but having a beginning, middle, and end and its own self-contained story without having to ruin the rest of the movie by introducing all of these plots. I can't say much about that. I can't give away spoilers. I can say that that particular character is not it's not the focus, but there is enough characterization, and I got to be honest with you, they made me very interested in the character. Um, I I still don't know how I feel about particular things that they introduce with that character, but I do like the person who plays the character, and I think that they do a very good job with their performance. The acting in this movie is fantastic. Like, I can't stretch that enough. Angela Bassett is like, she should win an award for the effort she puts into this movie. Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic. Um, I don't know all of the actresses' names, and I don't want to butcher them, but everybody brings their A game. Martin Freeman, everybody is 100% locked in, and they act their roles really well. There's not any weird dialogue, nothing stupid, nothing clunky. Yeah, Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah, I'm sorry, names, but yeah, does a fantastic job. She really steals the show in this movie. Um, yeah, and you catch the feels. There's a lot of emotional moments and no jokes. Every serious moment is serious. And when the joke hits, it's appropriate and it's funny. There is some stuff in here that actually made me audibly laugh, and I haven't done that in an MCU film in quite some time. There were a lot of little moments that were actually funny because of how they were placed in the film, and there were moments that were dead serious, and they let you sit in it for a while, and it was funny. It reminded me a lot of DC, actually. Uh, Shit was dark. This is the darkest MCU movie I've seen in quite some time. But there was some fun in there too. I really say to everybody who will watch this or anybody who's interested in this movie, don't just listen to a bunch of critics out here. Go and see this movie for yourself, because I think this movie is going to hit people differently depending on what you're looking for in the MCU. But for me personally, I like acting and I like a good story. And I think this has a decent story. There are some parts that are a little choppy here and there, but for the most part, they do a fantastic job. And oh yeah, yeah. Can't tell you, man. Can't tell you, but I can say the humor is appropriate. And there are scenes that made me laugh. I laughed out loud. Everybody who was with me laughed, because the movie's so serious that when those scenes happen, they seem funnier because you've been uncomfortable for like an hour. So it was very well placed stuff. And yeah, and Namor, he's legit, man. Namor's the business. I've got to say, Namor is the first opposing villain they've had in quite some time. I don't think he's an overarching villain, but I don't even really think he's a villain. I can't give too much away on that, but Namor is a threat. I'll leave it at that. Like, and how they do him in this, because I know from the comics, is pretty accurate to the comic books. So yeah, I still think his design is stupid, but the actor does a really surprisingly good job. Like, by the trailers, I thought he wasn't going to be good, but he does really well, and he is. You definitely feel the threat that Namor poses. So, yeah, good stuff. But anyways, that's been, wow, like an hour-long review. I hope I wasn't talking in circles. It's hard to present you guys with, like, oh yeah, this is awesome, and not be able to tell you why. I think when I get into spoilers, I can articulate particular scenes and moments that make this movie really great. But I would say, don't listen to people. Go into this movie and just view it as a film, as the sequel to Black Panther, and come into it without outside views. I wouldn't even say with how hyped I am. Be like, yeah, that guy 100% endorses this movie, so I'm going to go see it because we should. No. For me, there's been this argument about oh, we need to see this, or oh, if you're this, you're that, you got to go and see this movie. I'd say you should just see this movie because it's entertaining and it's a good movie. Take all of the noise you're hearing on the internet out of it. Don't listen to leaks if you've seen them, because they're probably wrong in the way that they're framing it, and there's an agenda and a bias there. Go in with your own eyes. And that's how I went in. I went in as, I'm just reviewing this based on the movie that the MCU is presenting me, this one singular film. And I'm taking all of my bad experiences out of it because that has nothing to do with this movie. This is its own thing. And I enjoyed it. I had a great time. I really loved this movie. And I really think it's going to make my top 10 list along with the Batman. And I'm really happy that I can put a DC and a Marvel movie together, because I don't inherently hate Marvel. I love Marvel. I love Captain America. I love Iron Man. I love Thor. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. I wanted to like this movie. And by God, I am happy to report I love this movie. It didn't let me down. I feel satisfied. And I think MCU fans will like it. I think Black Panther fans will like it. And I think if you go in with a clear mind and you just, get into the film and, lock into what's being said and the kind of themes and messages, I think a lot of people will like this movie, and it deserves it. A lot of work went into this film. A lot of heart was put into this. I feel it. Nobody's phoning it in. And I really appreciate that this movie really puts a lot out there, and they don't care about making it necessarily clean or whatever. And I respect that. I respect the hell out of what they did. And I don't envy Ryan Coogler for having to readjust, because he had the script written before the passing of Chadwick Boseman. So I don't envy any director who has to go on without their lead. And I think that he handled it the best that he could. And I think the story is exceptionally really good story, despite having to make the adjustments he probably had to make because of the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And I think he handled it very well. And I don't think it was disrespectful. I think it, in fact, honored what had come before and did a great job, but it didn't dwell on it. That's not the selling point. This movie has its own message, and hopefully you get what that is. And when I can do spoilers, I will tell you what my interpretation is. But this movie has its own message, and it has its own point it's trying to make. And it does take time to focus on the passing, but it's more about, okay, now this is what's going on. And it all connects, but it does have its own thing, its own story that it's telling. And I think it interweaves it the best that it can. And I really appreciate it. So go check this movie out. 9 out of 10. When this movie comes out, or when you see it, in the comments below, tell me what you think of Wakanda Forever. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like? What didn't you like? What do you think about the tone? Because I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by the tone of this movie. And do you think it's better than the first one? Because me personally, I'm going to be 100% honest. No joke. I really prefer this over the first movie. I really think it upgrades everything way more efficiently. And I really appreciate there was no wonky CGI scenes. Everything's clean. So it's a really well, the cinematography especially. Yeah, no. And I'd say Chillmonger, honestly, I would go in with an open mindset and not hold that front and center, because it's a big thing, but really go into this with just a clear mind and just focus on the movie itself. I think you'll have a good time. I think a lot of people will like this. That's my own opinion. You have yours. I don't know what my algorithm's going to look like. Yeah. Hopefully I'm not hyping it up, but I'm gonna have all these comments going, "What are you talking about? This movie sucks." Maybe I'll be on an island and I actually love this movie and everybody fucking hates it. I don't know. That's where I land with these reviews. But me personally, I really love this film and I'm gonna go see it again. And I'm going to really like take notes and lay everything out for myself. So when I do a spoiler review, I can clearly and concisely lay out my thoughts, and hopefully I can get a panel together and we can kind of pool our thoughts and our emotions and just break everything down. But for right now, I could say it's definitely worth checking out. It's worth spending money on, and it's worth supporting, because I think if Marvel sees that it makes more money on these movies that tell a story, I think it will prompt them to make better movies and shows, hopefully. So, KK, hey, how are you doing? You're just jumping on as I'm getting ready to jump off, because God help me, it's 5:02 in the morning and I got to go to bed because I have to work tomorrow. But yeah, I wanted to share my hour-long thoughts and let you guys know I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It's a 9 out of 10. Go check it out. It's definitely worth seeing. And hopefully I'll get a chance to see it again, because I really enjoyed it. This will probably be one of those MCU movies I watch frequently in Phase 4. This and Shang-Chi. This will probably be the only two movies I watch out of this whole entire phase repeatedly, because I liked Shang-Chi for how fun it was, and I like this movie for how serious it is, and just how well shot and directed it is. So, thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully for everybody who clicks on this and is curious, or they see this review before they go see the movie, if you like this, hit that like button, share this, and support the channel. Pass this around. And yeah, I guess the proper way to end this, God, I hope I don't get backlash for this, but the proper way to end this is to say Wakanda forever, baby. All right.